How do you boost employee morale in a factory? I'm Greg Schinkel, President of Unique Training and Development and Frontline Leadership Systems. And today we've got to look at what could be drudgery in a factory environment. How do you keep people boosted in terms of their morale? The myth is, of course, that you don't need to spend any time on improving morale in the factory. After all, it's all about getting the work done and getting the products shipped. But the problem with that is that the National Safety Council found that workplace stress amounts to $300 billion a year in costs, mostly because of absenteeism, turnover, and a drop in productivity. So it's a costly problem when we allow the routine or drudgery of factory work to really start to stress people out because they feel that they don't have a sense of control over their environment or over their accomplishments. Now, I do remember of course, we hear some really interesting stories when we're doing our training. I remember one leader saying, we don't pay you to think, or just focus on your own job. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. And I know that it comes from a spirit of trying to, get people just to focus on their tasks. But really think about how insulting and disrespectful it is to have your boss tell you, I don't pay you to come up with those ideas. That's my job. It's really just demoralizing. Now, poor morale and the hopelessness that comes with it is probably one of the worst human emotions that you could ask for. So we want to give people a sense that their contribution makes a difference and also that they have some degree of control and influence over their work. So I've got a few tips for boosting employee morale in a factory. Tip number one is help them understand the impact of their work. And sometimes that means actually teaching them the business. We had a recent situation where once the employees were aware that there was actually more work that could come into the factory if they just boosted their production a little bit, even without any additional capital investment or increase in labor, they were able to increase the throughput in the production, which of course adds even more job security and creates more resources to buy more equipment and also to give raises. Number two is to involve them by asking questions. Now, a lot of times leaders feel that they need to present the answers to every problem, but sometimes the leader would be better just to say, here's our situation, what do you guys think? Now, when you ask, what do you folks think about this? What it does is it forces them to start to think through possible solutions. Now, the solutions that they come up with may or may not be the best solutions, but if any of them match what the leader would have already told them is the solution, they have greater buy-in because it came from their mind and they spoke it, so they now own it more, and that can help boost morale. Tip number three is to acknowledge accomplishments. There's a lot of problems in manufacturing every day in terms of machine breakdowns and product shortages and people not showing up for work. But every day, probably 90% or more is actually going well. And so if the supervisor or the production manager takes the time to acknowledge the accomplishments that have been already implemented, it feeds people's sense that, hey, I'm making a difference, we're doing well, we're winning as a team, and that can boost the morale of the facility. Sometimes you will have experienced a morale problem in an organization and then you either switched locations, switched departments, or switched companies, and you found that, it doesn't always have to be this way. So you can take some of these tips and increase the employee morale in your factory. Now, once you've done that, you're going to realize that there's more to boosting morale than just those few tips, and that's where our Frontline Leadership Program comes in. Whether you have it delivered on site in person for your people, or you use our state-of-the-art virtual training studio to deliver it still live, but allows people to stay in their different locations, and the newest technique that we have is Frontline Leadership on Demand, where it delivers the learning right to their device of choice, including their smartphone, and that way they can learn at their own pace and put those ideas into action, and you'll see the impact on your operation. All those solutions really come and they start with a conversation, and that can happen by visiting our website at uniquedevelopment.com or connecting with us on one of the many social media channels that we work on, which includes LinkedIn and Facebook, and also Instagram, and the latest is TikTok, frontline.leadership. Check us out. It's quite humorous and fun. It all starts with that conversation, and I look forward to connecting with you to see how we can be of benefit to your organization.